In my opinion, I think that on New Year's Eve this year, when Alabama takes on Cincinnati for the college football playoff semifinal in the Cotton Bowl, I think that game will be the biggest college football game ever played. And I'm going to explain why here in this video, but here's what I'm going to start with. If you were to ask someone what the greatest college football game of all time is, you're going to get a multitude of answers ranging from various games of the century that happened in the regular season, like when LSU played Alabama and won 9-6, or when LSU played Alabama and won 41-46, or when Texas played Arkansas, the 1968 regular season won 15-14 in a comeback, or Catholics versus convicts, or wide right, or that time Notre Dame played Florida State in the game of the century. That's what's going to come up a lot in these types of games. And I think games of the century are great. I love it when there's a marquee matchup like that in the regular season where it all comes down to that, and it's at one team's home campus and it's a ruckus environment. I love game of the century type matchups. I think they're great. Or you could get a multitude of national championship answers. Some people might say Alabama against Georgia in the national championship on that 2nd and 26 play. Some might mention, I don't know, when Penn State beat Miami in the Fiesta Bowl in the first really true national championship game. Some people might say when Ohio State beat Miami in overtime in the 2003 national title. But the most common answer that you're going to get for what's the greatest game of all time in college football history, the most common answer you're going to get is USC and Texas in the 2005 national title. Vince Young against Reggie Bush. Great game, back and forth. Texas won it late. That's what most people will say is the greatest college football game of all time. And that's the game I think is the greatest college football game of all time. But of all those games, this game with Alabama, and some people might bring up upsets. Some people might say Boise State against Oklahoma in 2008, I think. I can't remember what year that was, but when Boise State beat Oklahoma. But what Cincinnati has that Boise State doesn't is Cincinnati. Cincinnati is the first team with a chance to win it all. They're the first lower conference team to have a chance to win a national title. No other team in the history of college football can say that. No other team can say that. And they're taking on the establishment. Alabama has been at the top of the college football world since 2007, since they hired Nick Saban. They've been, how many? That's 6. I think Saban has 6 titles in Tuscaloosa, 1 at LSU. So from 2007 to 2021, that's 14 years. That's almost a national championship every other year for Alabama. That's ridiculous. So it is the lovable underdogs against the establishment, which we've had before, but not on this scale, and not with as much of a chance for the underdog to win. Cincinnati is not a pushover like everyone's going to say that they are. Everyone in their bowl mania, I'm putting my most points on Alabama. There's no chance Cincinnati hangs with Alabama. True, Cincinnati could get blown out. I mean, Bama blows out teams all the time. But Cincinnati knows what they're playing for. They know the importance of this game, and Luke Fickell's going to get his team ready. And they have legitimate NFL caliber players on that team. Desmond Ritter's as a legitimate NFL level quarterback. Sauce Gardner, legitimate NFL defensive back. Same thing with Kobe Bryant. Yes, his name is Kobe Bryant. Those are two great defensive backs that'll be matched up on Jamison Williams. But Cincinnati Oh, they don't play anybody. That's been the argument for the longest time about why these teams shouldn't get a chance to play for the national title. Well, if you ask most people, who do you have at number 5 in your rankings? Most people are going to say Notre Dame. Cincinnati now just beat Notre Dame on the road. They beat them badly. I know they only beat them by 11, but they were up by a significant amount in that game. Sort of kind of caved at the end a little bit. But I think Cincinnati has as good a chance to win the national championship as any other team this year. And just to have them going up against the establishment with a chance to win the national title, I think Cincinnati against Alabama this year is the biggest college football game ever. Ever. Of all time. It's the biggest college football game of all time. And if Cincinnati wins this game, then the national championship will overtake that as the greatest championship of all time. And when the underdog has taken on the established, in the BCS era, there were 6 occasions the lower division school got to play against a good team, like when Boise State played Oklahoma, when Utah played Alabama. There's more, I can go on. But the BCS Buster was 4-2 against the establishment schools. And even in this New Year's 6 era, teams, the group of 5 has won in that game before. UCF beat Auburn. UCF made it twice, beat Auburn, lost to LSU. Houston beat, who'd they beat? I think they beat Florida State. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Houston beat Florida State. So we've seen smaller conference teams take on these big powerhouses in bowl games, but never with a chance to win it all and never with as good of a team. I think that this Cincinnati team is better than, I think they're better than that UCF team. I think they're better than that Houston team. Probably on par with that Boise State team. That Boise State team should have gotten to play for a national title, but all in all, I think this is the biggest college football game of all time. And I kind of want to do some real quick. I think this is going to be kind of fun. I'm going to make my picks for the college football playoff. What is it called? The playoff pick'em. It's sort of little, they're like little prop bets you can place. I'm not putting any money on. It's free to play this on ESPN. And if you get all of them right, the amount of people that get all of them right, so let's say 5 people get all of these right, I think they get to split like 10 grand. So I'm going to make my picks. It's free to do this. I don't endorse gambling. Oh, there's a national championship one? Okay, I'll play that eventually. All right, who do you think is going to win this matchup? I've talked about this before. I think this is one of the... I don't think this Alabama team is as good as Bama teams in the past. And Cincinnati knows what they're playing for. I've talked about this for a while. I think Cincinnati's going to get it done. Over, under 60 points. I'm going to go under. I think this is going to be a defensive battle. I don't think Cincinnati's going to be able to run away with offense in this game. I think they're going to have to play really good defense. And that's the strength of Cincinnati's team is their defense. So I'm going to say under the 60 points. Will Cincinnati lead at any point? Yes, I think they will lead at some point throughout the game. Who will record more receiving yards, Alec Pierce or Jamison Williams? Now, Alec Pierce is really good. He's Cincinnati's top receiver. I do think Jamison Williams will have more because they don't have anyone else to throw to. John Mechie tore his ACL. He's out for the entire rest of the year. He's focusing on the draft now. Jamison Williams is he's a stud. All right, he's a stud. I think that they're going to have to, he's going to get the most targets and ultimately the most yards. Which quarterback so this takes into account Georgia and Michigan. Which quarterback will receive the most passing yards? Now, I don't think it'll be Cade McNamara because Michigan, they run the ball. They pound it down your throat. I don't think they're going to get enough passing yards for McNamara to win. I think they're going to really try to hammer the run against Georgia. Stetson Bennett, he's definitely the worst of these 4 quarterbacks. I don't think it'll be him. Desmond, I think it's going to be Bryce Young. He's the best of the quarterbacks, and they're probably going to have to be throwing the ball the most of these 4 teams. So I think it'll be Bryce Young. Which of these players will record the most rushing yards? Now, the obvious choice for most people is Hassan Haskins. I don't think it'll be Hassan Haskins. The reason being is because what makes Michigan so good is they have multiple running backs that can hurt you. They have AJ Henning and Blake Corum. They run 3 running backs. So you're going to want to split the carries with those two. I know people that play fantasy football hate it when carries are split, but I really think that they're going to use Corum a lot just to maximize stamina between those two. So I don't think it'll be Haskins. I think Brian Robinson's a really good player. I think he's definitely the worst of these 3 running backs. I don't think it'll be Brian Robinson. I don't think it'll be Zamir White. Just because I think it's going to be hard to run against Michigan with their front with Ajabo and Hutchinson. And I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Michigan or Georgia to run. Both those teams have really good defenses. I think it'll be Jerome Ford. Because he broke off like an 80-yarder against what's their names against Houston. I think Cincinnati's definitely gonna have to run the ball, control clock, and keep the ball away from Bryce Young and Alabama's offense. So I think Jerome Ford will have the most rushing yards of those 4 running backs. How many turnovers will there be in the semifinals? I'm gonna go with 2 or 3. All these teams take good care of the ball. All 4 of these teams don't turn it over a lot, so I don't think there will be very many turnovers at all. So I'm gonna go with 2 or 3 as the amount of turnovers. How many touchdowns will be scored? Now 10 or more. That would mean this is interesting. The most popular pick is 10 or more. I'm kind of... I definitely don't think it'll be 0 to 7 or 10 or more. I'll go with 9 for the amount of touchdowns. Who will win this game, Georgia or Michigan? I think Michigan will win. I think they're the better team. I think Georgia kind of got pumped up throughout the regular season, and then as soon as they got tested, boom, they got crushed by Alabama. So I think Michigan's going to beat them. I don't think Georgia's as good as everyone says they are. Honestly, if you ask people who they think the best team is, I've heard people like last year, who's the best team? Alabama's best team. No one argued with you when you said Alabama was the best team. Maybe some people said Ohio State, but this year, I've heard all 4. I've heard Bama, Cincinnati, Michigan, and Georgia. I've heard someone say for each one of them, you can make a case for any of the 4 that they're the best team. I think Michigan is the best team. I think Michigan will play Cincinnati in the national championship and beat them. But I think Michigan will win this game. Over under 44.5 points. So 22 for each side. I think definitely over. That seems pretty low for the over under. I think Michigan will win 24-21. That puts you at 45 points. That puts you 1 over. Who will record more receiving yards? Bowers, the freshman tight end who gets all the targets for Georgia. That guy's a stud, Brock Bowers. Or Cornelius Johnson, the top receiver for Michigan. Now, this is tough. I'm going to go with Bowers because Michigan runs the ball so much more than they pass it. And plus, they have a multitude of receivers. They've got Mike Sanders still. They've got Ryan All, their really good tight end. They've got Andrell Anthony. They have a bunch of other legitimate options other than Cornelius Johnson. Cornelius Johnson is their top option, but they have a lot of other secondary options that are going to get a lot of targets. Bowers is the main target on Georgia. Maybe McConkey's really good. He's good too. Is George Pickens going to get a lot of snaps in this game? Who knows? But I definitely think that Bowers will get more targets and ultimately more yards. Will Georgia and Michigan be tied at any point in the 4th quarter? I'm going to say yes. Both these teams are really close, evenly matched. It's going to come down to the wire. Yes, it will be tied at some point in the 4th quarter. I'm expecting a terrific game between these two. And how many total yards will be recorded in the semifinals? I'm going to say each team's going to average 300 yards. That puts you at 1,200 total. I'll go 1,201 for good luck. All right. Those are my picks. And that's just kind of a little bonus I wanted to throw in, a little semifinal preview for you guys. But I think Alabama, Cincinnati, biggest game in college football history. And some people don't even think it's the biggest of the day. People are more excited for Georgia and Michigan. I'm excited for both games. It's going to be fun. There will be streams. There will be fun. See you guys New Year's Eve for both those games.